Okay. Tina's new book is called The Gathering Eye. And I should say Tina Barr's new book, sorry. And she is the winner of the Tupelo Press Editor's Prize in Poetry. As I said before, she's Associate Professor of English at Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And she has received fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, and the MacDowell Colony. She has her work published in, or to be published in, many publications, including Poetry, Paris Review, Harvard Review, the Southern Review, the Antioch Review, Plowshares, and many other journals and anthologies. I am very pleased to present tonight the author of The Gathering Eye. Our guest, Tina Barr.
It's really nice to be here, and I want to thank Cynthia Hogue for putting the reader together, and Janine Savard for bringing all her students, and for reading so beautifully, and also Penna for organizing all this. So. And I want to thank my cousin, my family, my aunt and uncle, and my cousin Gregory for being here, and my friend Maggie, my husband, who's finally broken out his video camera that he got for Christmas, and this is the first time I've seen it, so it's really exciting. Okay.
It's not about me.
5 poems, and I went to Cairo about 7 years ago. When I was a little younger and sprier, before I got married for a second time and got a house and had to decorate it, I used to take belly dancing, and I went with my belly dancing teacher. And but I haven't gone. I didn't go last spring, and I'm not going this spring because of the war. So, but I fell in love with Cairo. So I'm going to read 2 poems from Cairo that I wrote about Cairo. And there's a famous place in Old Cairo called Fishawi's, which is an old cafe where all the tourists go, but so do regular people who smoke water pipes. Yeah, close. Big. Apple-flavored tobacco in this case. But that says something about you, I know. Okay. Infusion. Saffron, pepper, cardamom are piled in open cloth sacks beside dry hibiscus. A man in a turban with a sickle-shaped knife cuts a coconut. Yasser is being shaved with a straight razor as he sits in his wool stall. His scales, with their graduated weights, glint on the counter. A framed verse from the Quran hangs above him. I do not shake his hand. Before prayers, he would have to wash again. At Fishawi's, the waiter carries coals in a long-handled pan. After placing them on water pipes with tongs, he feeds them apple-flavored tobacco. Bubbles gurgle when the men inhale in sips, lounging on wooden couches. I bruise mint leaves under my spoon. Others drink anise tea, a yellowy green, or red carcade made from hibiscus. Later, Yasser will offer fruit cups, layers of melon, apricot, and banana, leaking juice among the custards. A little girl chases me on my walk from Fishawi. She prods me with Kleenex packets. A tiny piece of silver hangs on a string through her ear. A beggar with no legs walks on his hands. Okay. And the next poem is called Alchemy. There's a mosque called the Mosque of the Ibn Tulun, a 9th century mosque, my favorite mosque. And the courtyard, nobody ever went there. You would go and there would be a couple of guys standing around to take your shoes, because of course you can't walk, without taking off your shoes, or at least covering them in this case. And there was this amazing courtyard of white stone, white pebbles. And now, last time I went, they're Disneyfying all of old Cairo. So they cemented over this courtyard, which really upsets me, but anyway, it lives in this poem. As you know, there's a range of women's clothing. Everything from the younger women wearing pretty tight jeans and t-shirts to women in headscarves. And then women dressed head to toe in black, which you never used to see. But the last, 4 years, I started to see women like that. Alchemy. Outside Ibn Tulun, the boys fly kites they've made from plastic tacked to wood slats, gray cassette tapes unwinding like fishing lines. The kites rise and dip to drink the continual blue. The boys want jeans, a TV they can rig up in the street. An attendant slips cloth covers over my shoes so I can enter the mosque. One eye has a membrane like curdled egg white drawn across it, from dust to flies. Acres of pebbles make a white beach of the courtyard. Walls with fatimid leaf crenellations cut a blue square above us. Birds as they fly under the arches of the walkways write in loops the name of Allah. In this mosque, the mad were given bread and water. I sit in the milk mix of silt, light, and flood. All around us, yellowy sand goes on forever. On the subway, coming here, 6 women in black sat clustered together. Robed, veiled, and black-gloved, dust covered their black pumps. Through slits, 5 pairs of eyes stared. The last woman's veil fell over her whole face, her eyeglasses underneath. I hid, an infidel, inside my long skirt. The shirt could fit my father and reach to my wrists. In some places south, they still slice off not only a girl's clitoris, but the labia. Thorns tack what's left together. In the old days, women wore silver hageb like lockets, cylinders or squares. They hold paper prayers. Behind women's eyes, a wall like the black stone at Mecca rises. Okay. Let's see. Well, as I told Penna earlier, I moved to Memphis 8 years ago to teach at Rhodes College and had no idea what I was getting into, having grown up in the Northeast and the East Coast. And anyway, there's a lot I really love about it, like the camellias and the history and the richness of the Gothic, I guess is the best way of putting it. But anyway, it is an intense place. Anyway, so I made up this poem. I stole other people's histories and I made up a Southern family, which we do not have. So, lest we avoid some confusion. Anyway, I mentioned my first husband in this poem. Okay, Delta. The blooms set inside dry prongs like gems, burst like popcorn. A populace of cotton tails softens between my fingers. As we walk the fields, the old man talks about the still, how it was a flimsy thing. His tenant dismantled it pretty quick. 40 gallons of moonshine you could get, but he says it in his language, with its long vowels, as he tells about sweet gum, how it takes a long time for the tree to get big. You can't split it. It will send the axe right back. I remember my husband's shoulders, muscles moving in his back, his choreography with the axe. I watched a tailored jacket split up the back as he threw a ball for his dog. This is man's talk about moonshine, how you could sell it back then for a lot, $20 a bottle, how the tenant pulled a knife when he went for the rent. A cousin whose constant arm is on his younger wife looks at the caterpillar I found, brown in the middle, black at the ends, curled like the snail in a periwinkle. As I brush it, he tells me you can tell how bad the winter from the color of its fur. It's rust, like fox. My husband's brother fed me a stew once, the fox's rib on my plate, a vein running from it. I took the meat out of my mouth. We lived in Maine then, in cold houses, ate steamed mussels, blackberries in summer. We must have made love, but I hardly remember. I took walks along the rocks, hoisting myself over boulders whose hulls leaned into each other, ran my hands over their surfaces, some flecked with pink quartz or streaks of olive. Today I learned to spread tea leaves beneath azalea or camellia. It's another life here, though the hay is the same. But this the frost got, so he can't use it. It will make the cows sick. The man uses words I can't put in my mouth. Dago, nigger, and the cotton coming out of its husk is a wonder. Okay. It's kind of fun to write these poems, isn't it? And sort of express your feelings. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to read this one more. Annunciation. And one of the best things about living in Memphis are the birds, because I was used to 15 years on concrete in South Philadelphia near the Italian market. I mean, you're lucky if you see a pigeon. And and New York, same thing, really. Although I guess if you went up high enough, you might find some hawks. Anyway, but we have amazing birds. And in fact, I was walking this morning and saw a hummingbird, and since I moved to Memphis, I put out, red sugar water so I can get hummingbirds. There's when I was a kid, let me date myself perfectly. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my dad took me to see Walt Disney's Pollyanna. Do you remember that? And Pollyanna, or somebody in the movie, had, I actually was in the Haley Mills fan club with Susie Curry, my cousin. Anyway, in the movie there were all these crystals in the window. Somebody in the movie had crystals. So now I actually have crystals in the window, and they make rainbows. And I'm reading from my Uncle Abe because he's an art dealer. And it mentions a Jan van Eyck Annunciation painting. Annunciation. In a Van Eyck painting, a woman waits below a window through which a dove drops on a gold string. Does the woman see the angel step in, whose wings carry a rainbow of feathers? Orange sears yellows, greens float blues. When angling light skids down its long shrouds like a child screaming down a water slide, it hits crystals hung against my window that shed, like feathers, spectrums of color. Beyond the sprinkler's range, its 4 spinning fans toss water. It scatters sound rising and falling. A rainbow disappears. The blue jay, the cardinal, land in their cloaks, as if these two had driven through light to minister, washed through with color. There is a blue jay inside the water oak. He drops inside the green cathedral where leaves dice light into windows. My back against its trunk, I ride my breath, pull it in and climb it like a line, haul myself up and rise, dropping stones from my heart. I fit the blue jay's black mask, raise my arms inside his blue overcoat. Thank you.